Merry Christmas. No, that's wrong. Welcome to the 4th year in a row I have graced your screens for the Halloween season. Just ignore the fact that the Tremors episode never got uploaded last year. Also ignore the upload date for the one in 2018. I wasn't in charge of uploading back then. But it was filmed before Halloween, so it counts. So what's on the agenda this year? An analysis of a recent horror film? A very obscure series that I think more people should check out? No. This year we're going to talk about how my friends and I stuffed a vampire into an interdimensional burlap sack. So as you may have inferenced, I am a big fan of Dungeons and Dragons. I have many of the books for 5th edition. I have played many characters, and I've even run a few games as a dungeon master myself. Some of them were even for D&D. I feel like Dungeons & Dragons needs no real introduction. It's one of the biggest nerd franchises on the planet. You've probably even seen some of the web shows where it's just celebrities playing Dungeons & Dragons. Wish Variety magazine did a photo shoot for my show. This story comes from the first campaign I'd ever played in, the module Curse of Strahd, run by former home screen host and God Amongst Men, Johan Wyckoff. This is going to be your spoiler warning right away. There are going to be minor spoilers for Curse of Strahd, nothing major from like the plot. Believe me, we went totally off the rails very, very fast. Also, if you are a current player in the Curse of Strahd campaign I am running at home, don't get any funny ideas. I've already prepared myself not to allow the events of this story to repeat, so don't try it. To summarize what Curse of Strahd is all about, it takes place in the dread domain of Barovia. It is a small kingdom ruled with an iron fist by Count Strahd von Zartovich. In case his face wasn't obvious, he's a vampire. He's a very complex character and he has these very convoluted set of goals, but I won't get into that, but just note right away, he does not like our party of adventurers. This scenario is going to be a very simplified version of the events, so some characters are going to get cut. I'm sorry, but let's meet our main cast of characters. We have a trio of dwarven brothers, Rorin, Ulfgar, and Vonbin, played by my friends Lucas, Jack, and Nathan, respectively. Fun fact, the Nathan of the story would go on to become one of the hosts of Sounds of the Valley. Man, I am shouting out a lot of shows tonight. Quick summary of the trio: Rorin is the older brother, he is the more level-headed of the three. Ulfgar is the middle child, he is currently running a crusade against Strahd in the name of the Morning Lord, and Vonbin robbed a bank. There is also another dwarf that is not related to the trio named Xavier, played by Charlie, who is also a host of Sounds of the Valley. Weird how that worked out. Xavier was essentially a rotting corpse with crossbow bolts and arrows just pierced into him and just sticking out of his body. Pretty sure he named a few of them. Then there was my character, Krognak, the half-orc. His strength stat is through the roof. He is several feet taller than the other characters, but they love him enough to consider him a brother and an honorary dwarf. Okay, let's set the scene. Our party is currently in the town of Vallaki. It is the most populous city in all of Barovia, although the guards don't like us that much because the burgomasters of the city are corrupt, and also Krognak may or may not have slaughtered a lot of them. Through a series of shenanigans, we are in the middle of a coup against the burgomasters, attempting to put a young man named Petro in their place. I'll be frank, I don't remember who Petro was. Deal with it. While we're in the middle of our shenanigans, we get an unwelcomed visit from the Dreadlord himself. The first time we are meeting Strahd in this campaign. I should also mention that we are a low-level party, 3rd or 4th level, so we are not a party that is equipped to take on Strahd. I actually wrote a script for this scene playing out for my playwriting class last semester. I think I got a not failing grade on it, so I'm just going to read from this. Also, shout out to Johan for just giving me his notes when I initially wrote this. They really helped. Interior, Burgomaster's Manor. The doors of the great manor slam open with a thunderous noise, letting in a blast of chilly wind that seeps into the bones of everyone present in this room. The force of the breeze makes your eyes squint. For a moment, the incoming mist, clawing its way over the carpet, takes the shape of half-formed bats, gung-ho through the front door, going straight up into the ceilings. Petro takes a shaking step backwards up the stairs. A blitz of sweat forms on his brows as his eyes look around at the state of the manor. Shadows start to race up the walls in hideous shapes, goblins and imps, disfigured humans, screaming and cackling in madness. A low chanting fills the room, much like the altar chamber in the Durst home. Xavier, With you knowing Barovian, you recognize key phrases in this chant.
Lord, devil, creature of black, we call upon thee. Your blood is wine, your sword is moonlight. We invoke you, land of dread, land of ancients.
Charlie, I hope that voice sounded correct. As he's trying to race up the steps, Petro trips. He looks up slowly, his eyes drawing up to a figure. His eyes the only thing that he could see in the dim light. The Dreadlord, Count Strahd von Tsarevich, Lord of Castle Ravenloft and conqueror of the land, warlord, kingslayer, and the devil himself. You are Burgomaster? Petro doesn't move. Why are you scared? Do I terrify you?
My lord,
I am Dreadlord.
I apologize, Dreadlord. You are...
I have heard the Asalich line has sought his calling, and you know of your family's curse, yes?
Yes.
Then you know what has to be done. Unless, of course, you follow my terms. What do you have to offer me, Burgomaster? Petra pauses, looking back at you all, silent with fear. He then turns to the Dreadlord and lets out a long breath.
Nothing.
Petro is about to get his butt whooped. Strahd raises his eyebrow at this.
We are starving. We are hungry. We are dying in the streets because of you. Renica used to be a good village. I heard its praises and stories from my grandfather before you murdered him. And my father, the new hanging body from the Burgomaster's folly.
And now you find it permissible to refuse my rule?
I do, because I know that in this darkness, hope lives.
I quelled the light of hope long ago. The Morning Lord has long since abandoned this land. The only god left is I. What makes you think that this light returns?
Because of them, they've done their best to show us a better path, pointing out the wrongs of your rule. Even now, I know that there is hope. I live in hope. The good people here live because of hope. We are still free soon enough, and you will be nothing but a fleeting nightmare.
You should have thought to preserve your bloodline, not to stick your neck out. And now you have presented me with a delicious execution. At this point, we have all of our dice in hand. We really want to do a murder on Mr. Vampire Man. And Johann is aware of this. He really wants to do his epic vampire monologue, but we just really want to stab him. Eventually, Ulfgar is just like, in the name of Lord Thunder, the Morning Lord, you will be destroyed. At that point, we roll initiative. Turn order goes Roran, Ulfgar, Strahd, Xavier, Krogak, and Vonben. First move on the board, Roran casts Fly on himself to get around Strahd so he can protect Petro, who is currently being swarmed by rats. He swings around a nearby lit torch as he makes the rats all scatter away. Next up is Ulfgar, who is just a little bit too far out of range to get right up to Strahd, so he uses his Commander Strike, he's a fighter by the way, on Xavier, as Xavier then lines up his bow and takes a shot on Strahd, but it misses just by one. In retaliation, Strahd unleashes a fireball on the party, hitting Ulfgar, Krognak, and Xavier. The first two of us make the dex save, but Xavier fails, taking the full burst of the fireball and immediately going down. Luckily, he was up next, so he has to make a death save. He makes his roll, and it's a natural 20 right away! Lucky man, that Xavier. Now he is back up at just 1 hit point. So now I am up to bat as Krognak, but Lucas is like, hey, I've got an idea, and he whispers a little something in my ear. Johann tries to inquire, but we don't tell him right away. So on my turn, I go right up to Strahd, and instead of attacking, I go up and I attempt to grapple him, and due to Krognak's big meat guns, he's able to hold on to him pretty well. Johann was a little surprised at this strategy, but he allowed it. Next up is Vonben, and Nathan was also told by Lucas to go grapple Strahd. So he comes up, and now they're just two meaty boys holding this vampire down. Now we come back around to Roran's turn. He goes up to Strahd. He pulls out the bag of holding he has, and he pulls it down over Strahd, pulling him into the bag. I believe Johann at this moment could be considered confused, surprised, angry, and impressed all at the same time. He probably tried to look through everything, look through all of his notes, look through all of his books, trying to find a way to weasel out of it, but he couldn't find anything. Strahd was just in a bag of holding, and we celebrated throwing this campaign just completely out the window. This was one of the best sessions of D&D I have ever played in. It's important to note that this was all in good fun. We love Johann so much, even if it's become a motif with any character he runs now, that they at some point have to get shoved into a tiny space. If any of this sounded fun and like something you'd really get into, I'd recommend picking up D&D. It's a whole lot of fun. If you love high fantasy worlds and just plain goofing off, this game was made for you. Well, that's it for me. Happy Halloween, everyone. Stay safe this holiday season. Well, I know I told you to stay safe, but that doesn't mean stay here. Show's over. Next episode's gonna take a little longer to make, so take some candy and get out!